Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Éric Molina, he is not a happy man, not at all. And why is that? He's just been handed a 2-year ban for failing a performance-enhancing drugs test. It dates back to his ill-fated title challenge against IBF champion Anthony Joshua in December 2016. As we know, he performed terribly in that fight and was dispatched with relative ease by Joshua. But the drummer boy, he's not disputing the failed test itself. He's more enraged at his treatment by the UK anti-doping agency, otherwise known as Ukad. So he's accusing it of being a shonky outfit, which would have let him off had he gamed the system. So he's making some serious allegations indeed, and I'll get to his video statement in a moment. But first, what exactly is the doping agency saying? So there's a summary on its website and the full judgment, but it says in the summary, American boxer Éric Molina has been suspended from all sport for a period of 2 years following an anti-doping rule violation, ADRV in brackets. Mr. Molina tested positive for the presence of the prohibited substance dexamethasone following an in-competition test on 11 December 2016 after his fight against Anthony Joshua. Mr. Molina was charged with an ADRV pursuant to Article 2.1 of the anti-doping rules, presence of a prohibited substance or its metabolites or markers in an athlete sample. Ukad Chief Executive Nicole Sapstead says every athlete is solely responsible for what's in their system and must adhere to the strict liability principle. All athletes at any level should familiarise themselves with the WADA prohibited list and ensure they do not put themselves in a position where they may breach anti-doping regulations. The period of ineligibility shall apply from the date of the provisional suspension, 28 October 2017, until midnight, 27 October 2019. Okay, so as we heard there, he's provisionally suspended for 2 years, effective October 2017. And that may raise an issue with some of the fights that he's had since then. But more on that later. But what I'll do is I'll go through some of the highlights of this full 18-page judgment. Not the whole judgment, but just some of the highlights, because it's a scathing assessment of Molina's actions. It really is. And because Molina goes so hard in on Ukad, I've got to balance it out and go through what they're saying. And if you would like to read it at your leisure, the full 18-page judgment, you can find it at the Ukad website, ukad.org.uk. So the judgment, it says, the boxer stated, I accept full responsibility that a violation was committed through my positive test, but I would like to challenge the imposition of a 2-year period of ineligibility. In an interview dated 5 September 2017, the boxer stated that dexamethasone contained within a product, and I'm not exactly sure of how this is pronounced, but I'll give it a crack here. So Tribadose DX was administered to him by way of intramuscular injection by one of his team on the day of the event. Ukad argued that to establish no fault or negligence, the boxer must show that he took every step available to him to avoid the violation and could not have done any more. Ukad submitted that in applying the utmost caution test to the facts of this case, the boxer was very significantly at fault, and that the applicable period of ineligibility of 2 years should therefore not be reduced. Mr. Molina did absolutely nothing to check whether Tribadose DX contained any prohibited substances. Indeed, he appears to have given no consideration to the matter whatsoever. The tribunal notes that certain matters are not in dispute. There seems no doubt that the boxer gave a positive test on 11 December 2016. And I'll just stop there for a second. So it also notes that the B sample was never tested because it wasn't in dispute. So it continues. After this heavyweight title fight bout against Anthony Joshua, the prohibited substance was dexamethasone, a specified substance which is prohibited in competition depending on how it was administered. There have been no issues raised regarding the testing procedure, and there was no TUE, that's a temporary use exemption. The tribunal notes that the boxer said he had no formal anti-doping education other than from his gym, where he had been given a PowerPoint or two. Jesus. The tribunal determines that the boxer simply ignored all risks, failed to act with the utmost caution, and shows a significant degree of considerable fault. Not holding back here. So it continues, an experienced athlete wanting to take vitamin B12 could take it in a number of ways. He chose to take it through an intramuscular injection from a new source bought in Mexico and made absolutely no checks whatsoever as to what was in that supplement. A basic check would have revealed the prohibited substance. Unfortunately, the boxer has chosen not to actively participate in this procedure. Apart from the odd email after his interview, he has failed to provide the tribunal with any legal submissions, evidence or relevant case law. The tribunal has no material before it in order to consider dropping him below the standard 2 years. So Ukad, it doesn't really sort of sugarcoat it. That's some pretty sobering stuff, and really going in on Molina about his behaviour and lack of care about checking whether this was on the banned substance list. But Éric Molina himself, he has taken to social media, he's given his side of the story. Check it out.
After the fight with Joshua, I had a urine test which tested positive for dexamethasone, which is an anti-inflammatory used. It has different uses, but this is where it was contracted from. This is the actual box where I spoke with the UKAD, and I sent them everything that was in my backpack. This is something that I took at the day of the fight. This is actually the B12 that can be purchased over the counter in Mexico. There's dexamethasone right there, dexamethasone. And unfortunately, dexamethasone is on the list of banned substances, which is a long list of banned substances. Tylenol, Advil, ibuprofen, anything anti-inflammatory taken before the fight is also on the banned substances. So obviously I was at fault for this substance here, taken in this. And for 13 years that I've been boxing, I've been tested, Veda testing all over the world. And when I fought Deontay Wilder, I've never tested positive for anything. This is the first time in 13 years that something slips up in my drug test. And I take complete responsibility. Complete responsibility. There's a list of things that need to be excluded from your body when you prepare for a fight. So I understand where the penalty's coming from. My beef with the UKAD is that two things, actually. The first thing is that they after I was 100% honest with them, I said, this is what it is. This is where I got it from. This is when I used it. I explained everything. Didn't hide nothing. I didn't say I ate some meat. I didn't say it accidentally got in my system. I said this is where it came from. It's actually in my B12 injection. So I was completely honest with them. And then after that, they told me that all I had to do was just submit to them a prescription from a doctor that said that I was prescribed this stuff. And even at that, I mean, I have friends that are doctors, and I didn't do that route. Why? Because it's not what it was. It wasn't the truth. The truth is, I take that it was in the B12, and that's why I failed my drug test. So I didn't reach out and send them any prescriptions. That wasn't the truth. Anyways, I didn't think, in hindsight, thinking that they were going to suspend me or ban me 2 years. They did, and my beef with them is that, number one, is that 18 months ago this happened. 18 months ago. So they wait 18 months. They send me email after 18 months. And I really thought this was a complete joke. The UKAD tried to hold leverage over me so that I could pay them some type of money like all the other fighters do to get out of junk like this. This is an anti-inflammatory that they wait 18 months to release statements all over all the media like if I'm some type of anabolic steroid cheat. Because obviously I didn't put the money on the table for them or present a lawyer to plead my case, or for both of those reasons. And because I didn't do that, because I don't carry the name or whatever, for whatever reason, I get the max punishment. This is what's wrong with boxing. This is what's wrong with the sport. This is how can you have fighters up and down the division that have got caught with anabolic steroids that almost beat the other men to death and get 3 to 6 months suspension, and come back within a year and fight for world titles. And I get, this is, look at this, I'm not hiding nothing. This is what it is. This is right here what it is in the B12. Dexamethasone. I get 2-year ban, and I get slammed all over the internet, like if I'm a drug roid cheat, for 13 years of my career, I've done everything the right way. And now, and my beef now is I have such a sour taste with boxing in my mouth. How does this make sense? Like, I apologize to all my family and my friends and stuff, because I know you guys are reading this like in disbelief, and I'm 100% like, I'll take the responsibility. This is an anti-inflammatory agent. This is not anabolic. Does not performance enhance my abilities in the ring at all. And yet I get the maximum punishment. Somebody reach out to me and tell me how this makes sense, please. Sorry again, guys.
Okay, so now you've heard Molina's side of the story, and also the guts of the 18-page Ukad judgment, which was quite scathing, as I've already mentioned. So my own view on this is Molina, as he's admitted, he only has himself to blame. He and his team made no effort to check what was in the vitamin B12. And his defense seems to be because he didn't know there was a banned substance in the B12, that somehow his sentence should be reduced, that his punishment shouldn't be 2 years. And the judgment notes, Molina barely tried to dispute the facts, he barely argued his case for the sentence to be reduced, and he also failed to even do a basic internet search of the product, and that would have identified that he couldn't take it. Sure, I give Molina some credit for falling on his sword and admitting that he messed up. He knew he messed up, he even told them what he had taken, and he deserves some credit for being honest and upfront on that. And he didn't, blame it on contaminated meat like some others have recently done. But, here's the big but, at the end of the day, the doping rules are clear. Athletes have to be aware of what they're putting in their system. It is a strict liability system. If you fail a test, you fail. It's on you. You serve some sort of ban, you get some sort of punishment. That's the way it's meant to operate. And sure, considering some of what Molina has said, you can make an argument that 2 years, that's a bit harsh for, what Molina claims was just an anti-inflammatory injection. But at the end of the day, he didn't argue his case, according to Ukad, beyond the odd email. He didn't contest this to any great length. This is what they're saying. I would have thought he would have been fighting tooth and nail, trying to get the sentence reduced, knowing that some sort of punishment was probably coming. And what's more concerning, and you probably know where this is going, the situation where Molina is claiming Ukad, it's imposed the maximum sentence because he wouldn't play ball with them. He wouldn't, as he put it, pay them some type of money like the other fighters to get out of junk like this. So Molina, he's essentially accusing Ukad of being corrupt, that they operate some sort of pay-for-play type of system, and that money is the answer for fighters to get out of suspensions if they've taken something that they shouldn't. And he's basically saying that Ukad will accept retrospective documentation and it gets you off the hook, and that if you chuck in some money, that helps. So these claims, they're very serious, and I'm sure Ukad has probably heard these by now. It could choose to pursue Molina through the courts for, allegedly defaming it. I mean, whether what Molina has alleged is true, I don't know. And I have no doubt the system isn't perfect, but to go as far as Molina has, it is quite something. And I'm keen to get your take on this whole situation. I mean, should Molina just accept his lumps? Should he have fought this a bit harder? Or is he right, in part, to at least blast Ukad over, well, one, the length that this has taken, but two, that he's got 2 years, and he's saying, well, actually, for what it was, I should have got less, and just because I didn't stump up some cash doesn't mean that I should get the full 2 years. What do you make of that? And sidebar, so Molina, he'd actually been due to fight Marius Wok this weekend, and I understand from reports that Wok, he will still fight, and he will bring in a late replacement, but clearly Molina, he is not going to be on that card, and that was in Poland. Looking to do something on that later this week. But here's another question, and if you've stuck it out to the end, thank you, big ups. The ban is effective from October 2017. Molina fought and lost to Dominic Breazeale in November 2017 in a WBC final eliminator. Does the ban, and this is the question I've now got on my mind, does it have any bearing on the Breazeale fight? Could it now be turned into a no contest? Will it have any impact on Breazeale's mandatory status to the WBC belt? So I did tweet about this very issue, and I've asked for the WBC or its president, Mauricio Suleiman, to respond to this, because I'm sure some other fans will have the same questions. But no doubt, as is normally the case, if it's a thorny issue, it'll be promptly ignored. But if you're still here, if you're still listening, do let me know in the comment section. I never actually know who is really watching, / listening to the end, because over the course of the video, viewership drops off. A lot of people make comments, and you never know, did they actually listen to the end? And sometimes it's clear that they didn't, because of what they've said, has been covered later in the video. So if you've stuck it out, thank you for choosing to spend part of your day watching my videos. I really appreciate it, and thanks again, and let me know if you're still here. What do you make of this whole Molina situation? Bit of a cluster for him. In my view, it's a strict liability offence. It's pretty cut and dried, and he probably could have argued his case a bit better, but he hasn't. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.